They're back on site today and getting started. Throughout the rest of this series, we'll see the tin start to go up and we'll start to see this thing come together. Stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. Okay, so they're putting the J channel on the windows and they've got the all thread up on the left side here. And you can see the metal strapping that's gonna hold the studs to the floor joists, and now you see the all thread come up right here and then continue all the way up to the truss at the very top. And that'll anchor this side of the building, or this side of the truss. And then this side, of course, has the cables, which we've shown you earlier. All right, so here they're gonna frame out above the framing that you see already, and they're gonna make it so they can attach the 4-inch by 4-inch panels, metal, we'll call them pig panels. All right, and these are the panels we talked about, and it is 2022 and material is really, really hard to come by. The guys had to drive an hour and a half to find a store that had these panels. The guys are on site with the sheet metal, so today they're putting up the J channel around all the edges, and then they're gonna start putting up the red sheet metal. And that's the very first piece that will go up, and that will be the interior, actually the exterior wall of the workshop, but it'll be interior of the pole barn. The first few pieces of tin are going up. You can see we're doing horizontal, and this will enclose this whole east side of the pole barn. So it's 32 by 60 feet. The pole barn looked decent sized when it was completely open, but now as they're putting tin on it, it makes the building look really big, really long. So here it is from the inside. You can see we're starting to close in that east wall. You can see the white side of the sheet metal, and then we'll build the stalls from that wall in. And here's inside the shop starting to get closed in. Got half a wall there and this whole wall here. And the roll-up door there, of course. It's the feed room, door to the feed room. And that's one wall of the shop. See the guys in the background, they're working on putting the tin around the roll-up door. You can see this south wall is pretty much done. They're gonna have to get some scaffolding and stuff to do that gable end, but that's pretty much done around the windows, looking good. And on this side, you'll see that they've got the tin up, except for this one big piece here, but the 4-inch by 4-inch panels are in above the stall area. So they put a piece of drip edge, and that's the white piece underneath the wire. They put a piece of drip edge that they custom bent there, and then they put the panels up and stapled them to the post, and you can see the framing that they put up there to hold up those panels. And what that does is that keeps anything that wants to get into the animal area, it would have to go over the tin and through those grates. We haven't designed or planned this end yet, so this is as far as the barn's gonna get enclosed. So our primary purpose for starting the Piney Grove Homestead channel was to document this land transformation from 20 acres of planted pines, thick brush, into our future workable homestead, and this barn is a big part of that. So as you'll see, it's also the very first splash of color on the property. It is that deep, rich barn red with the white trim. Really sets the building off from the rest of the building, and that's what we wanted. We wanted something that was distinct and that said farm. You can see it really adds a lot of color to our property. That's the first piece of soffit. So they got to run that 1x material, and that gives them something to attach the soffit to. And what we want to do is protect the wood. Most pole barns on that area are just going to have exposed wood, but we didn't want exposed wood to the weather and also for a way for wind to get up in there. So let's take a tour of Piney Grove's new pole barn. Okay, we'll start here on the south side. So we've got a 32-foot wide by 60-foot main pole barn, and then we have a lean over there that's 16 by 48, but none of that got enclosed in this phase. So we got soffit and fascia. We're completely enclosed on this end. So this basically is built like a house. You see the J channel in the corners. So we elected to do that soffit and fascia with metal and plastic because we wanted the ends of those purlins to last forever. And if you leave them exposed in a pole barn, that's kind of the first thing that rots, is that very end of that purlin. So we should be good to go forever on this end of the pole barn. So this window is the end of the workshop, and this window is the end of the 12 by 12 feed room. And then starting with these metal panels at the top, we got 8 foot of sheet metal to keep driving rain out, but then we left the top with about 4 foot of opening with wire grating, and that'll allow airflow where the animal stalls will be. And that should also prevent your larger predators and critters that could possibly scale this wall. This north end is not done. That'll probably be next year. That'll probably be 2023. And that will be a 10 by 10 roll-up door and then similar red metal across the front here. That north end is neither designed nor budgeted for. We're really hopeful that in 2023 lumber prices and steel prices come down, because this was not inexpensive, and most of the expense was materials, not labor. Okay, this is the west side view, and this is the roll-up door. It's a 9 by 8 roll-up door, and this will be how to get large equipment in and out of the workshop. So this 12 by 32 is essentially a workshop, and then you see it makes an L here, and that L is the feed room. You can see we put a header across the top instead of a wall, and that way it's continuous. You can walk all the way through here into the feed room and out into the pole barn. We're going to bring electrical power in there through a conduit we already have in the concrete, and then we're going to have 60 amps of power out here, and that'll allow things like table saws and drill presses, skill saws, things like that. And then also we'll have ceiling fans and lights. It's going to be pretty basic for electrical, but that's still something that needs to be done. We're hurricane strapped to the bottom plate, and we're also J-bolted to the bottom plate. And then we're hurricane strapped on all of our windows. And then we're hurricane strapped on all of our rafters. And then we have 3/4 inch plywood on the top, and all that is nailed down. We didn't cut any corners building this. We built it much like a house. And we're pretty confident it's going to weather pretty much any storm out there that Florida can throw at us. So this is the interior door, and we even hurricane strapped that one. So this door will open into the pole barn. We'll cover this side of the pole barn real quick. We got treated 2x4s that are 8 foot long. We have a treated bottom plate and a double treated top plate, and then we have the metal grating. What that will do is that'll keep the solar loading off the animals. It'll keep it cooler here, and then you have the open area up there to keep a breeze coming across. So that was the concept behind the way that east wall was built. But moving right along, now you can see the enclosure from inside the pole barn. There's the feed room, and there's part of the shop. Of course, the shop goes all the way, the whole 32 feet. And the feed room is 12 by 12. The steps were custom made, and they were an afterthought. And by an afterthought, they weren't part of the original price. And you see 3 16-foot 2x12s there, because they originally were going to do 2x12s for the steps. And I said, no, let's use 2x6s. They're cheaper, and I'll like the look better of 2 2x6s instead of 1 2x12. I figured a 2x12 step would hold dirt, would hold grit. Sometimes they're concave or convex. They won't sit flat, and there wouldn't be a crack or a gap that would allow the sand to kind of filter down. It saved us $400 by using 2x6 instead of 2x12 treads. Okay, as I come up the steps, feel very sturdy, feel very safe. I'm 6 foot tall. I got no problem standing completely up there. But if I stand up over here, I've got standing room for many feet. This is all 3/4 plywood. It's all nailed off to the 2x10 rafters or floor joist. So you'll see about 6-inch boxes raised over there. And what I didn't want was the roll-up door to be exposed up here, and then hay, dirt, whatever, make its way down into the workshop. So they built a box over top of that over there. You can see this is all framed in 16-inch centers with 2x6s. And then we have our all thread that holds the truss down to the framed workshop. And then we have our 5/16 cable with a 2,000-pound working load that's all the way down to a J-bolt in the concrete. So we've secured this end down, not only with the framing and all the screws and nails associated with that, but also with basically 1 ton of downward force here, and whatever the working strength is on a piece of 1/2 inch all thread here. If we had built the workshop in a different manner, say just use 2x4s and put some tin up here, then we would have lost all this space. This space is going to become so valuable and so useful in the future.
Oh, this is going to be our first use of the loft. Be careful, Mr. Bradford. Sketchy. It looked sketchy. That's how it looked.
That's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this tour, walking around with me as I showed you the final product on this pole barn enclosure. Eventually this barn will be completely enclosed. It'll have animal stalls built. There'll be animals in it, and it'll be one step closer to our dream in the making of turning this 20 acres of raw land into a working homestead. Thanks for coming along with us today. Hit that like button at the bottom. That's that thumbs up at the bottom. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, y'all.